Welcome to the Snap Society. I have Mamika Cooney here with me. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming, Mamika.
Yes, thanks so much, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, Mamika, tell us your background.
Okay, well, long story short, I'm a South African-born photographer. I've been a photographer for 11 years, and I have a home-based portrait studio specializing in babies and beauty and fashion.
Okay.
And before that, I got involved in the internet marketing industry way back when the internet first came out in South Africa. And since then, we've had a whirlwind trip. My husband's in the internet marketing business, and we went from South Africa to England and England to the USA. So that's where I'm at now. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And yeah, that's basically what I do with my photography. And I also mentor and train other photographers too.
Okay, so we're going to talk about brand messaging. And you know a whole lot about this topic. So I just kind of want to, let you share with us your knowledge on that. The myth with branding is that it has to do with your logo and that's where it stops. And we kind of want to talk about that today. So go ahead and share with us.
Yes, definitely. So definitely, as you mentioned, a lot of the time when people talk about branding, we think it's just a logo or a company name or fonts and colors, which it is in some ways, but branding is how people feel about you, not necessarily just the look of what you look like. Now, the reason why I remember a story about my own branding, when we moved from England to the USA in 2006, it was a chance for me to rebrand myself and redo my business. So I decided, oh, what would be a good idea? Like, if I want to eventually hire other photographers, second shooters, I better have a generic name. So instead of going by my own name, which I had been in England, decided to use a generic name called Photo Lyrical Photography, which was cool. But I didn't really think deep and hard about who my ideal market was. I was thinking of it like, well, I need to have the name photo in there, and the colors black and purple are good general looking colors. Yeah, that'll do, and I'll go out there and promote myself as a photographer. Not really thinking about what my message was saying about me. It's almost like, your branding is it's your website, it's also how you dress, it's how you speak to people, it's your email correspondence. Your brand would be what I would call your silent voice. What is it your brand is saying about you? And fast forward a few years, 6 years down the line, I look back at my business, I was overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. And I had a lot of clients who were beating me up on price. So by the time they got into the ordering appointment, they had sticker shock because there was a disconnect between what it is that I was charging and the value they were getting. They thought they were getting a good deal because their friend had said, oh, you need to go to Mamika, she's got great photography at a good deal. And I was like, why are they saying this word good deal? I thought I branded myself as a more high-end, high-class studio. And so there was a disconnect. So, and as I started to work backwards, because number one problem is I hadn't really planned where I wanted to go. And I kind of ended up somewhere and went, oh, is this where I am? I didn't really expect to be here.
And don't you find that a lot of people are like that? They kind of just get right into it instead of saying, okay, what do I want this to look like?
Exactly, because I'm sure a lot of people who would feel the same way. I started as a mom with a camera. I love taking pictures, and I fell in love with photography. And people started to notice and said, oh, you've got a good eye. Oh, you're so good at photography. You should start to charge for it. That was the worst advice I could have heard. Because what it does, it built the passion-based business based on my ego as opposed to on what service I could bring to the industry. And, when you think of it from that perspective, oh, you just want to be a photographer because you take nice pictures and your family and friends who are biased start to tell you your work is great.
Right, yes. So who do not have a good eye and have no idea.
Exactly. They really don't know how to compare it to really what is good.
Better than theirs, yeah.
And they're emotionally invested in you. And sometimes, no one wants to know that their baby's ugly.
Yeah.
But no one wants to admit that. But sometimes you need to look at it. So basically, I got to a stage where I had all this turnover. I was busy. I couldn't fit any more sessions into a week. I was working from home. I was totally frustrated, but I wasn't keeping any money. And that's the other thing is having turnover is one thing, but it's the profit and what you take home that's more important.
Yes.
And then once I started to look at things, I worked with a coach, and I was frustrated. I went through a stage where when the economy hit, then I was pulling my hair out. I'm like, where are these people? And it's like they were the wrong fit. They were the wrong target market. They weren't the people who really were invested in what I had to offer. And we were on a totally different wavelengths.
Okay, so somebody would ask, what are the things that you changed in your branding that attracted the right people?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to tell you now. So basically what I had then is after I'd gone through this stage, and I went through a really hard, personal time of feeling depressed, like, what is wrong with me? Why are people complaining about my price? Surely I'm worth more than that. My quality of work is good. Like, what's wrong with me? And as I started to look at how my branding looked, what I did is I worked with a branding strategist, and one tip she gave me, which is what I advise other people to do now, is to actually look at it from an outsider's perspective. And one exercise I love to do is to create a Pinterest board. Because, this you can apply whether you're starting a business or whether you've been in business, is to go in and create a board and just pin things that are the places you like to go, your dream vacations, the clothes you like to wear, the food you like to eat, colors and styling, anything that appeals to you. And then when you look at it, you start to see a common theme. Like one of the ladies I recently mentored, she started pulling in things, a lot of burlap, sort of wood textures, earthy tones, a lot of like gold bling, like, Mama Blahnik with those little pink little accents. And I said, your theme, your color is a lot of natural styling as well as like gold and pink color. So when you go to create a brand, which is either your logo or your color styling, it helps to associate you with something. So an example with me, the reason why there was a disconnect is, my work is naturally lots of color. It's very bright. It's very emotive. People have described it as beautiful and vivacious. But what my branding was saying was traditional, very stoic, very, muted colors, dark. And I was like, that's not me. So I felt frustrated as a creative. And once I had realized I had to start to be more true to my own self, and that's a lot of things. Branding isn't necessarily, and I think that's my problem, is I'd made it about just a product, where as photographers, we really are selling ourselves and our heart. It's our vision. We are emotionally invested, more so than a lot of other business models out there. So I really think that success comes when you base it on what makes you, you. And simple things like my 13-year-old at the time was like, Mom, I don't know why you're having such a hard time finding brand colors. Just look at your wardrobe. It's 90% blue and white. So I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's exactly what I like to wear. So it made complete sense to base my branding on what it is that made me me, because then I could be true to myself. People would like me for who I am. I didn't have to pretend to be something I wasn't. And I wouldn't end up frustrated. So as I said, branding goes further than just a brand in terms of your logo. So now that I had my new logo, I had my new website look and feel nice, white, clean lines, bright blue, reminded me of the sea because my dad's Greek and we have that sort of Mediterranean feel. And what it did is I always associate an example is, if you're going shopping at the mall, if you're going down the aisle and you see the little shop windows on the side, if you're looking for a pair of red heels, you are not going to go into the Nike store that sells sports shoes or the baby store that sells, baby clothes. If you are looking for red heels, you're going to only stop at the window that sells women's shoes. And a lot of the time, us photographers made the mistake of, our shop front is our brand as well as our website and our marketing and our promotions. We're trying to be all of those. We're trying to be the baby store and the sporting goods store and the lady shoe store, because we want to do everything and be everything to please everyone. And you know what ends up happening is you end up pleasing no one. You get frustrated and the client's confused. And that's what happened with me. There was confusion. It is what the expectations of what they were going to get was one thing. And what I provided was something different. So your brand is your storefront. You've got to think about, in order to stop someone in their tracks, what are you saying? And a lot of the times it's feeling, mood, lighting. Like some of the stores I love the Kate Spade store, like the bright colors, the soft lighting, very bright. I don't like say some of the other stores that have this dark, heavy look feel to it. I don't even like shopping in there. So again, you got to think, what is your brand saying about you? And
I do think that one thing that fogs that is that people admire somebody, so they want their stuff to look like that, or the latest trend is this. And so instead of being true to themselves and looking in their closet and seeing what colors they wear, they're looking around them and saying, oh, but this person does this, and this person does this, and this person does this, and trying to tie it all together to them. And you're right, that is not authentic. It's not being true to self. And in the long run, it's just frustration.
Exactly, because you can't be something you're not, and you can't. You can get away with pretending for a while, but eventually it's exhausting, and the wheels will fall off the bus, because you need to be. And I say, some people say, well, how do I find what my style is, or how do I find what my voice is? And this is something that I like to do. Even this summer is one of my projects, is to do a personal project where you're not on the clock. You're not based on, because with my photography, when I started in weddings, because people who said, oh, you love photography, you should start in weddings. So I fell into doing weddings. It wasn't necessarily, and even though I won awards doing them, and I, because I'm the type of person, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. But it didn't suit me in terms of my lifestyle. And eventually I re-engineered my business so I could be free on weekends to spend time with the kids. But even then I was like, well, that looks like good. Maybe that's what I should do. Or this person down the road is doing this, so maybe I should do something opposite. So, or, oh, look, they're getting their backgrounds from such and such a company. I want to have mine look like that. And what happens is, for the general public, you become a commodity, because they're just comparing apples with apples. And what do you compare a commodity on? Price. Whoever gives the best price. And being involved in a price war is a race to the bottom. And who really wants to win that race, right? So that's why I said, exactly. If you want to be respected as an artist and be successful as a business owner, you first and foremost have to look at it as a business. And second of all, you have to design your business model around what makes you unique, because that's what will give you longevity. Because I've seen so many businesses go, open doors, and within 2-3 years they fold because they're not being true to themselves. They're trying to copy a trend, like you mentioned. And when the trend goes out of style, it's like, how can you have a sustainable business? An example would be, a couple of years ago, there was the whole trash the dress trend. And I remember seeing a couple of photographers who try to brand themselves as, we are your trash the dress specialists. We don't do weddings, but this is what we do. And I agree about the idea of specialization, but when you're basing it on a fad or a trend, and you can't keep it up, it's very hard to maintain a sustainable business. So that's why I say branding it's more than just one thing. And once you know who you are, then you can craft your message to appeal to the right audience. And it's like a dog whistle. When they hear that sound, or like the opera singer moment where they're like, oh, it stops them in their tracks. They are naturally magnetized to you, and you then work with the right people. And then price becomes secondary,
And so you talked about in the beginning how you got frustrated with the clients who were so about price, and then you rebranded yourself. So tell us that side of the story. What happened after you rebranded yourself? How did that process work for you?
So basically, like as I mentioned, I did the whole Pinterest board and started looking at things, and I worked with a branding strategist who kind of gave me some idea, but I still felt I didn't actually go with her final recommendations because I felt like she was missing something. And in actual fact, it was so funny, as my 13-year-old was actually more tuned into, because she was biased in some way, but she was unbiased in other ways. And she looked at things, and it was a good sounding board for picking out my final look. But once I got the logo done, I redid my website, redid my marketing materials, but I started to use different language. So I had to re-educate my clients. And I must say, when you do a rebrand, and a lot of times, especially when I have photographers who come to me and they say, I want to up my prices, how do I do that without putting people off? There's kind of no way around it. If you are charging peanuts and you want to start charging decent money, you have to come to peace about that. You aren't going to be everybody's photographer anymore, which means you can't please everyone, and you will lose clients. So for me, the hardest part, and one of the exercises I did, is I went through my client list over the last 7 to 8 years of servicing clients, and I made a list of the biggest spenders, the ones I enjoyed working with the most, and the ones who valued me, who maybe didn't have a lot of money but really loved my photography, and those who haggled with me on price and were like those real high maintenance type of clients. And I put them into little categories. And what I discovered is the group that loved my work, paid me a good value for my work, and who had the best experiences with me and left happy, were probably about less than 2% of my list. And when I went and looked at the numbers, 80% of my income came from that 2% of clients. So I had a realization. Why was I spending all this money on marketing, trying to attract new clients who didn't value me, or the wrong type of clients? Because it was just a waste of my marketing money, where I should have been focusing on where those ideal clients were, being where they spend their time and spend their money, instead of just trying to plaster an ad in the local baby magazine or the local, the wedding magazine, hoping something will stick, as opposed to thinking of it, okay, my ideal client is a mom, and this is what I talk about in developing your client avatar, is really knowing who she is, not just her demographics and her age, but What are her ideals? What does she believe in? Where does she like to shop? Where does she like to hang out?
Mm-hmm.
And things I developed was like, my client avatar is usually professional working mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's maybe waited a few years to have her children and maybe even experienced issues with infertility,
Mm-hmm.
and who's paid to have a baby through IVF. So she's gone through a lot of, hassle. And a lot of the time they may be, they really love the art side of photography. They love the style, and they don't have time to go and mess with printing their own pictures. So they're not necessarily interested in digital files.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is that can be a whole nother discussion. But never assume that you know what your client wants.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out what my client likes. She loved the service that I provided of creating finished wall art. She could literally hang on a wall and not have to do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So even knowing, those type of values, how much time does she have available? What does she like to do? My client likes to get her hair done, likes to get her nails done. She likes to go to the gym twice a week. She loves to do girls' night outs with her friends, and even they might even go away to the Bahamas for a week, and that kind of clientele. And it's a totally different mindset to some mom who wants to stay at home with her kids, who's prepared to give up work, who will go and clip coupons, who still values photography, but maybe isn't necessarily, a high spender. And that's the other thing, is I assumed that I figured out that maybe just the high spenders were the ones who valued me. It wasn't always true.
Right.
Sometimes the coupon clipping moms would save her budget for a year just so she could come and have her photo taken by me. So again, knowing what it is, the intrinsic needs of your clients and what it is they really love is how you find the best branding.
Yep. So basing your branding off of that. It's not about what looks pretty and what, all these different things that people end up just throwing something together that it's not very effective. You've got some things kind of in the works that I want to talk about with what's going on in the future here for you.
Yes, definitely. Well, what's coming up for me is my biggest project. It's taken me about 18 months to develop, because being the perfectionist that I am, I like to make sure things are really done clearly, they look pretty, and they are really useful to people. So I spent the last 18 months doing a lot of research, reading books and doing interviews, and I've developed what I call my signature Capture School. Now, Capture School is a module-based online learning platform. And part of it is the system is that it allows you to work at your own pace. Okay. Now, a lot of the questions I've heard from people that I've mentored and I've spoken to have said, they love photography, but they struggle with business. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of us photographers get it back to front. We fall into business because we love photography instead of being a business owner who does photography. So what I've developed in the school is systems and strategies to help you work through that. And we cover things like branding, website design. We cover everything from marketing, like how to use social media effectively, time management, tips and tricks that I've learned to speed up my workflow. Marketing campaigns is a great one too. It actually gives you a turnkey solutions of how to actually market yourself, as well as video marketing, how to tell your story better, copyright. Basically, it's like a business in a box for creatives, designed in a easy to digest, bite-sized learning modules. And we also have a private Facebook page with, which helps you to find networks and that accountability, because we were talking about that earlier, that you can't get things done and it's hard to do things on your own unless you have an accountability partner.
Yes, absolutely. That's so true. Okay, great. And so when are you what is it called? Capture School?
Capture School, and you can find it at captureschool.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mimika, for being with us and sharing your story on branding. And I want to thank you guys for sticking with us here at the Snap Society, where everything clicks.